Interview. First question is about classical music. How did you get into classical music? And how did you get into playing the oboe?
So my introduction to classical music would have come through ballet,
Okay.
because my mother I was born and grew up the first number of years in North Alabama, Fort Payne, and she had a ballet studio in our house.
Wow.
And she would teach classes and lessons. And me being the youngest child and having a much older brother and sister, I was the one that she got to make her little ballet boy. So the soundtrack of my household was largely rehearsal piano music that ballet studios will use to do their routines and exercises. And it was probably my first exposure to being on stage with ballet for some of her productions that would have featured classical music. But neither of my parents were particularly musical. They both had a appreciation for music of different styles. So my true introduction to classical music came when we moved to Chattanooga. And I was enrolled in a school that had a very engaging and wonderful music teacher, and ended up doing some recorder lessons with him. That was kind of my introduction to instrumental music, and took him home to my now divorced mom, and he became my stepfather. And he had an extensive background in classical music, including the oboe. I couldn't play the flute, which would have been my first choice because we had one around the house, but I have a little beak here on my lip. It's kind of hard to make the proper embouchure for the sound. So he had played the oboe, and he had also given me a little Walkman with a recording of the Jean-Francois Paillard Orchestra playing Handel water music and fireworks music, and I just became attracted to the sound of the oboe.
So it was Baroque music then that kind of
It was
got
Baroque
you hooked
music.
on. Okay.
And I stuck with that too. I ended up studying Baroque performance practice and still play recorder, but the oboe was just kind of an entry point to the world of performing music, and certainly classical music. When it came time in middle school to choose an instrument, that was the one that I ran with.
And where did you do your education? Like,
Okay, so I did a undergraduate on scholarship at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, and then some graduate studies at the Cleveland Institute of Music. Had fabulous music teachers, oboe teachers there, as well as the orchestras in those places gave me a real glimpse of what it is to play at a very high level.
was that your first time playing symphony orchestra, or you played in a youth orchestra before that?
I had played in the youth orchestra and in the symphony orchestra in Chattanooga because I had a wonderful mentor on the oboe there, the late principal oboist Bob Burks. And so, yeah, I was well prepared for advanced education and just kind of ran with it.
But was orchestra playing in particular something that you said like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
This you can do with an oboe, and this
Yeah,
is what I want to do.
Bob took me backstage in Chattanooga at intermission, and he said, come on back. But he didn't stay backstage. He went out to the loading dock with his coffee and cigarette. And I'm like, he's on work break. Wait, this is his job. He's in a tuxedo.
Yeah.
But, he's just got a real workman's attitude towards it. And, it was telling me, this is an option. If you want to do this, it can be done.
What's your HSO story? How and when did you get into the orchestra? And if you can remember, what was your very first show that you played with HSO?
Okay. I've been a member of the HSO since 2001. My first job was actually in Argentina, playing for a regional orchestra. And when I came back and went through graduate school, a position opened up with HSO. And my most memorable early performance was my trial concert, which featured Also sprach Zarathustra on it. And that was probably my first introduction to a big tone poem like that as well, and it was fantastic. So. But I've had a number of other memorable performance experiences here, some of them with you. I wanted to just share the opening night concert of 2021 would have been the year after we halted for COVID. And I had taken some time off from playing, even because the school where I teach, I'm a classroom teacher. I play every day for our chapel service, processional music, as well as some hymns. But so I had cut playing out entirely because as a wind instrument, I felt it was dangerous and irresponsible, especially around students, to do that. So we came back to a concert that featured Dvorak, Wind Serenade, and Ravel, Tombeau de Couperin, both of which feature the oboe prominently. And just to have taken time off and had to really work towards that, and to have it come off pretty successfully, it really spoke highly, well, of your programming, that there was that trust in your players to be able to pull that off, but also in my comfort level with my instrument. That I can do that. I can take time off and come back at a high level without too much extra work. So that was great.
And that's not something that's easy with a double reed instrument. Let's just
it's
make
not.
That a well-known fact for everybody.
I stopped making reeds at that time too, so I had to kind of pick it back up. It's like riding a bicycle. In some ways, you can do it. One more thing,
yes,
because this is part of my HSO experience, and the fact that I'm an educator, is I love playing the young people's concerts, and your program is always great, our collaborations, and including the few times that I've been able to perform as narrator or actor with that is, a really special opportunity I've had to share some of my other talents and interests with the kids of the area, and I just love working with kids. And so any chance we get to do that, I think, is very important, and it's close to my heart.
So let's jump from here to the question about the future of classical music, just in general. And I see you rolling your eyes, but it's more about you, based your own experience as a teacher, as an educator, as a musician. And you have come a long way as a professional musician also. Compared to where you started, how it was back then, and how is it now, and what do you see in the next generation, and where this whole business is going? I'm interested in your take on that.
I mean, there are always talented people that can channel their energy into this type of music. Whether there will always be an audience or people to fund it, because classical music in general is not really a money-making endeavor. It's part of the music industry, but not the part that's really a popular culture thing. But culturally, it's a reflection of the values of the communities. And I can't tell you where those values are going to be in 100 years, because they've changed since, in the past few decades, and will continue to. But like museums, like churches that have kind of stood the test of time, but have had to adapt, I think that's what orchestral music is. And classical music is larger than just orchestral music, of course. So I think it's going to continue to survive, but it'll look very different. And I don't know if the job that I have will be something that will be, be performed by people all over in small communities, small and large, or if it'll be just reserved for kind of centers.
So it sounds like you're neither an optimist or a pessimist, but a realist, maybe.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Based on everyday experience, I guess.
Yeah.
What else do you do other than music, as in for fun? Any hobbies, anything that is maybe not at all related to music, and you like to just do it whenever you can?
I'm a school teacher. That takes a lot of time, and so does the musical parts. So I'm not blessed with a lot of free time. And I'm kind of a middle-aged guy in search of a hobby. I do some yoga. I love to swim. Cooking and eating and traveling, are things that I've always enjoyed. But I don't have something that I really put my time and interest in. But I'm still looking. Okay. I'm still open.
Okay. Well, I guess we were talking about making reeds earlier. I don't think people know how much time it takes just outside of practicing and being in the conservatory rehearsing with others and doing the concerts and traveling from one place to the other, but you also have to sit at home and just make reads for yourself, probably hours and hours a week, a month. It's just
it depends on how much playing you're doing. It may depend on how much teaching you're doing. I don't do a lot of oboe teaching, so I'm not making reads at a rate that some of my teachers would have done. But it's definitely a skill that takes time and practice, and so much of your sound depends on it and your comfort. And then there are still those weeks that it just doesn't.
It doesn't work.
Or you pick the wrong one for that particular
Do you ever
concert.
use plastic reed? I was just conversing with someone about that, and I find it very interesting. It always comes up as a topic. I'm originally a clarinet player, so even for single reed instruments, it's like, well, just try this plastic reed, and then it becomes fashion. It comes into fashion, and then it goes out of fashion.
Well, the modern technology is such that the ones I've heard sound really great, and the ability to kind of adapt them to your own needs. I think that's great. I personally haven't gotten into it, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it's kind of cool, and I like experimenting and technological development. So, yeah.
And I guess now with the 3D printing, it's a totally different.
It has the potential to be. To be honest, I'm not up on what the state of the art is, but that's certainly where it's going. Whether it ever replaces the actual cane grass that we use to make our sound, but the quality of that cane has changed in the course of certainly my lifetime and the generations before. So it's its own, certainly its own craft, and I wouldn't recommend it.
As a hobby. So what cane do you buy? Is there like a specific type that you say this?
People have their favorites, but most of it is from a certain region of southern France where it's aged. It goes through a certain process in the field before it comes to the distributors in this country. But again, I don't go through enough of it that I'm really up on what I like. I really just try and figure out what'll work for that week. And I feel a sense of accomplishment.
Sure. And I guess it's a niche market, to say the least. Just talking about technical.
Well, though, with the internet, reed makers, that's something that I didn't grow up with, having so many really good trained people that can give you or sell to you professionally made, well-balanced handmade reeds, as opposed to the ones that come off of a machine and are handed to young players, with these horrible instruments that don't work, and then they're expected to love this music process when it's really just kind of torture.
Well, we ended up talking about reed making.
Nobody wanted to hear that.
No, but it's part of this business, and I want people to kind of get a glimpse of what else goes into us being glamorous up on stage and just playing great music.
I like it.
Thanks for the interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.